Greetings, Commanders. I'm your instructor, Commander Avasa, and welcome to AXI Flight School. Today I will be covering one of the best ships to use to take your first steps into Anti-Xeno combat, the Krait Mark II. The Mark II's design is well balanced and forgiving for all new commanders to use to learn interceptor combat for the first time. It provides plenty of speed and enough maneuverability to help commanders learn to pick up cold orbiting. The survivability of the Mark II is definitely noteworthy on the fact that it can actually withstand many mistakes and still have the ability to recover and allow you to continue the engagement. This class will cover the basic fighting style that many veteran commanders in the AXI recommend all new commanders getting their feet wet for the first time to be successful. Since this class is geared toward new commanders, I will only focus on how to deal with the Cyclops variant, so you no need to worry about the Basilisk or the Medusa or the Hydra just yet. Things to note about the fitting is that I will also show you what I personally run in a few places of a few modules, and that's a personal preference of mine that I feel will be beneficial to new commanders to use to become acquainted with. Of course, as a prerequisite to this class, I recommend all new commanders to refer to the Anti-Xeno knowledge base to get an understanding of Thargoid interceptor combat, swarm mechanics, and cold orbiting. Now if you're good more on the visual learning side, Commander Engram actually has a Combat 101 video you may also reference, which I've linked down below. Now as you can see on screen, between the optional internals and the utility and hardpoints that you'll see up next, is that I'm recommending two different builds. There's the AXI recommended build, and then there's my personal AXI Athena build. Now the Athena build is more my personal preference that I find that can actually be very useful and extend your range in combat, and it allows you to start practicing things like using your repair limpets and an AFMU. Either one would actually get the job done, so it doesn't really matter too much. Now the Gauss cannons are set into two different fire groups with two Gauss cannons each, and a flak launcher and a repair limpet in a separate fire group. Now what you have for your Gauss layout is completely up to you. I personally prefer my two Gauss cannons on top to fire together, and the two in front of the cockpit to fire together. Other commanders tend to prefer a left and right grouping, but really ultimately the choice is yours. To begin the engagement, the interceptor will approach you for it to perform a scan on you. It is your decision whether to engage while it's scanning or to wait for its scan to complete. Either way, to start, turn off flight assist and hit the interceptor with a burst from your Gauss cannons. Or you can actually hit it with your flak launcher if you want to save your Gauss shots. Once you are engaged, begin boosting past the interceptor until you reach the 4 to 5 kilometer mark. Then you want to perform a 180-degree spin to the swarm while continuing on your flight trajectory. Engage and take down the swarm. If you want to know why taking on the swarm is beneficial, please refer to the AXKB for detailed breakdowns. To engage the interceptor, set your pips to 024 and begin entering your orbit profile by applying down and forward thrust. For the Mark II, may be required to perform a boost to help initialize the orbit. Fire at the interceptor with alternating bursts until the first heart is destroyed. Once the first heart is down, this is when the interceptor is most aggressive and will begin its chase against you. To avoid the lightning ability, simply boost past the interceptor and maintain a separation distance of 4 to 5 kilometers. Now this is the point where you want to recharge your system cap to recharge your shields, so set your pips to 240 at this point. After 30 seconds, the interceptor will begin launching its new swarm, but due to the speed that the interceptor was traveling at to attempt to catch you, the swarm may actually be a little bit behind it right now. Now to engage a swarm that is behind the interceptor, simply perform a boost pass maneuver to readjust the swarm. This can be achieved by turning 180 degrees toward the interceptor and start boosting past it. If your shields are well charged, which I recommend setting your pips to 420 at this point, then you can actually take a little bit of the hits from the interceptor and reset the swarm. If you don't want your shields to take any hits or your shields are down, just simply pop a heatsink and just boost past it, maintaining at least 1 kilometer distance away from the interceptor. Once you have repositioned the swarm, simply it's just a fact of rinse and repeat. So just take down the swarm, hard exertion, and destruction. And of course, don't forget to reset your pips to 024 for your next run. Now as for the benefits of the Mark II, since it has shields, it can be a very forgiving ship, allowing new commanders to make mistakes while still having the ability to survive and shrug off damage from their mistakes. Another one of the strengths of the Mark II is that you can actually engage the interceptors either in FA on or FA off, and the ability to do that allows commanders new to FA off to actually experience it and still go back to FA on, so that way they can actually perform the kill. So it's a very nice thing to have to start practicing and flight assist off if you're used to flight assist on. Now the hardpoints allow 4 medium Gauss cannons, which provides the maximum damage output for any commander to quickly exert a heart and perform a quick heart takedown. Now while we're speaking of Gauss cannons, another great strength of why the Mark II is very well suited for new commanders is how the hard points are set on the hull. They are nicely grouped together to allow precision shots to occur without any hassle of having to adjust for oddly placed hardpoints. Now when it comes to maneuverability, the Krait Mark II is not as strong compared to the Chieftain, but it makes it up for having one of the fastest boost cycles and capacitor recharge rates to allow perma boosting if needed. It will also allow you to put 2 pips in the engines and still recharge fast enough to allow you to perma boost, allowing you to place 4 full pips in the weapons. Now the only real downside to the Mark II is that you have to constantly balance your pips, which can be overwhelming to some new commanders. The Gauss cannons always require 4 pips in the weapons to keep the heat manageable and to allow you to continuously fire. All the while, you only have 2 pips to play with between your system capacitor and your engines, so the constant altering, like I said, can be very demanding of new commanders. But that's really ultimately the only downside that I see to the Mark II. And now your course of instruction is now over. I hope this class has proven to be useful to the new commanders joining us for the first time, and I look forward to seeing the progression of all new commanders joining the AXI. Thank you to all of you, and I look forward to seeing all of you all in the next class. As always, aim for the heart, commanders. Dismissed.